In this video, we're going over Siri and Google Now, kind of going a head-to-head competition, but we're really talking about digital assistants and why they matter to marketers. So first, what do Siri and Google have to do with marketing? So this is really, of course, all about digital assistants and how they are changing the face of search. And if you think about it, that's all these really are. These are interfaces that go to search engines, right? That's all they do. So what's happening is, because people are using things like Siri and Google Now a little more than they used to, the questions, the conversational tone that comes across here, they basically create very specific questions. So instead of saying things like WordPress SEO plugin that you might type into a Google search result, you might say, hey, okay, Google, what is the best WordPress SEO plugin for search? Or you might say, Siri, tell me the best WordPress SEO plugin that's out there. And you have all these different conversational tones that come through, all these different words that are now dramatically changing the keyword phrases. They're more long tail. Okay, when they say that, all they really mean is it just contains more words. So between Siri and Google Now, which one is really more important? We're evaluating 5 criteria, and admittedly, this is going to be controversial. I'm going to tell you up front, I like Google. Okay, let the showdown begin. First, search engines that are powering the digital assistants. Siri uses Wolfram Alpha and Bing. Google Now, of course, uses Google. Which one's better? Come on. When's the last time you ever Wolfram Alpha something or Binged a piece of trivia? You just don't do it. So Google Now totally wins when it comes to search. Siri, all right, whatever. They paid some lady to do a voice acting. Great. So that's fine. Can you tell that I really like Google? I do. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm a Google fanboy. But Google Now, another robotic sounding lady. So in this case, Siri, you know what? I'd almost say it's a draw. It's really not a draw. I know they put the draw here on the slide. When we talked about this post, we said, you know what, it really is a draw, but because they're both kind of disembodied, but really, come on, they hired an actress. So let's give it to Siri. Device compatibility. Siri's only on the iPhone. Google Now is everyone, including the iPhone. So at the end of the day, this definitely comes down to Google Now. Functionality. Siri does meetings, make calls, sets alarms, deletes alarms, whatever. It can do a bunch of stuff. Google Now can also do that, but it does a whole lot more. And granted, I am a Google fanboy, but if you have not checked out Google Now and the powers of predictability that it has, it is amazing. It is scarily accurate on all sorts of stuff. For example, if you're going to fly, and we've had this happen, I've actually experienced this when we're going to fly a certain flight, all of a sudden, because Google has access to pretty much everything in our lives, Google Now pops up and says, oh, by the way, your flight's delayed. Oh, this is awesome. This is something I would not have thought about. Or it'll tell me the flight's on time. It'll tell me how far it is back and forth to home or to work. It's all sorts of cool stuff. It'll warn me about traffic. Before I even think about the question I have, it will actually give me the answer. That's phenomenal. So before I actually ask it a question, it's already given me the answer. That's how cool this is. So I have to give it to Google Now. Functionality. Siri's got a little bit of sassiness. Google Now, it's getting there. Sassy is I'm going to give it to Siri. It's got a little bit of attitude. It's kind of fun to play with. Google Now really isn't. It's all about business and getting things done. There's benefit to that too, but Siri's a little more fun. So the final verdict, come on, you knew this was coming. I have to say Google Now. And if you don't agree with me, that's totally cool. You're entitled to your own wrong opinion. I'm joking. I know. Siri is a great product. Apple does great products. But again, I have to say, I'm just Google all the way. So I know this might be a little controversial, but we wanted to have fun with this post, right? So Google Now has more functionality, especially with Android Wear. And in all seriousness, check out Android Wear if you haven't already. It is a whole new format, kind of like what they did with Android for phones. They're doing it now with wearable technology. They started it with Google Glasses, and now they're doing smartwatches and all sorts of stuff. There's going to be a whole wave of things coming through. And if wearables do catch on, Android Wear is going to be a huge, huge thing. And smartphones are basically becoming assistants now. Now, this is where we get back to the marketing seriousness of this. Because smartphones are becoming assistants, they are taking in orders through more conversational tone, through more long tail keywords. This is important. This makes sure, because you're worried about SEO, you got to get traffic to your site. You got to make sure that you are, regardless of if you think Siri or Google Now is really the best way, you have to make sure that you are catering your blog posts or your pages, your sales pages, your site pages, to make sure that you're giving all of these different search engines, Google, Bing, whoever, you got to make sure you're giving them the data they need so that they can essentially help Siri and Google answer these complicated questions. So when somebody says, hey, what's the best restaurant around me? Google Now knows that you're in a certain location based on your mapping. Siri probably does too. And it's going to do a search of restaurants around that location. But if you haven't filled out your Google My Places, then there's no way that Google's going to know where you are. It doesn't have your address. So you got to make sure that you do that. It might say, again, same thing. What's the best Chinese food around me? Well, if you're not classified as Chinese food, if you don't have the right information on your site that lets Google know or Bing know that it's Chinese food that you serve and where you're located, it's not going to be able to do it. And if you don't have a phone number, it's not going to be helpful for somebody that wants to then, if they're on a mobile phone looking for delivery maybe, it's not going to be helpful if you don't have your phone number there, because then they can't click and dial and place an order. So there's all sorts of things that you want to do. And again, if you think this is just about location, I mean, obviously when it comes to local SEO, this is huge, but it's not just local SEO. People search all the time. They're asking questions all the time. We said that WordPress plugin as an example, like, hey, what's a great, can you give me, here's an example. Can you tell me which one's better, Siri or Google Now? And maybe this blog post pops up. Who knows? Maybe this video pops up. There's lots of different things that you can think about when it comes to long tail. So check out your website content and see if your blog is answering long tail keyword questions. And if it's not, just make sure that you start catering to those. You can keep the ones you have already, but create more content that caters to long tail keywords, because those will help you more than anything. And then it's just about creating content, making sure that you're thinking about how people would ask these questions, doing it in a conversational tone so that it makes sense to humans, and creating content that's focused on long tail, because digital assistants will absolutely, they already are, and they will continue to change the world of search. So I hope that you found this video helpful, regardless of your opinion on Siri or Google Now. We just wanted to have a little bit of fun with that. But feel free to visit us over at SeriouslySimpleMarketing.com. Leave us a comment. Let us know, what do you think's better, Siri or Google Now, and why? And more importantly, how are you using digital assistants and how they're changing the world of search? How are you preparing your blog for that? Of course, if you have any questions, just leave us a message there as well. Love to hear from you, including any suggestions you have on future videos and topics. Thanks again for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.